We would like to have the candidates please come and take their seat on stage, and others please to find a seat in the audience. Candidates, please carry yourself away from the folks who are at your tables in the back and come to the front and find your seat on stage. We want to begin in 1 minute.
There's Hepburn.
Good to see you too.
The mayor so changed this sixth grade.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to our Meet the Candidates Forum. I'm Tom Hostetler, the chaplain here at Hillcrest, and I will be your moderator today. We're looking forward to an hour or so of unadulterated democracy as we experience the right of free people to public expression and the informed choice of those who represent us at the most local level of government. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "I know no safer depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government." As we begin, will you join me as we recognize our two sponsors for this event, Hillcrest Homes and the Verne Chamber of Commerce. Here to offer his welcome is our host, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Hillcrest, Matthew Neely.
Thank you, Tom. I'll share just a few remarks, but maybe we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. For those who would like to participate, please rise. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So thank you for coming today. I welcome you to Hillcrest. As you know, Hillcrest is a community that serves older adults, many people who live here and some from the outside communities. As part of our community service as a nonprofit organization, we open our doors to the outside community. Last night we had a huge event with the high school students. We have many organizations who visit and use our community for their purposes. Hillcrest hosts these events publicly, like the Candidates Forum, and earlier this week, the state of the school district, and soon the state of the city, to allow, especially this specific event, to allow voters the opportunity to hear from individuals who are seeking elected positions so that they can make, as Chaplain Tom shared, informed decisions about their elected officials. So as a nonprofit organization, Hillcrest is and must be neutral and cannot forward any candidate as an agency. Now I say that with the limitations that we each individually have freedom of speech. And Hillcrest encourages both the citizenry of Verne, its own residents, and its own associates to study the issues, to listen carefully to the candidates, and choose the elected officials that best represents your vision for what the future should hold for our community and who share your values. So we invite you to listen very carefully. It is my hope that in offering this forum, we are providing a level playing field for all of the candidates to be able to express their opinions. I remind all in attendance, if you're not a resident of Hillcrest, you are a guest. And we invite you to continue to act and behave as guests in someone else's community. This is private property, and it is nonprofit, so we should be respectful in our behaviors. I suspect that many people who are not here today have already voted, and that some of you who are here today have already voted, and that some of you, and perhaps many of you, have already selected in your minds the individual for whom you're going to vote. That is all well and good, but I also know that among us are individuals who do not yet know who they will vote for. So I can say this, perhaps it's true of you also. I've never changed my vote because I heard someone booing or cheering loudly. I have made voting decisions based on the words that candidates have spoken. So I think it's important that we carefully listen to each candidate and their positions, because if anything is going to influence the people in this room, it will be the words that are spoken from those seated to my right. So with that, I encourage us all to enjoy this time together of community building. And I would personally like to thank each one of the candidates who have gone through this rigorous process of applying to serve as elected officials. It's emotionally and physically vigorous and taxing. And we thank you for your interest in serving our community, and we wish you each the best of luck. And may you be blessed with utterance today. And may we all be blessed with listening ears. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Dr. Harrison and Karen Cloves are serving as moderators' assistants today, and they're seated here to my left. Michelle Powell and Anthony Guzman are our timekeepers. They are here in the front. And Loida Arriaga, Anita Dubois, Scott Frederick, Jessica Lozano, and Mary Kay Ogden will be gathering questions from among the audience. Scott Snyder will be circulating and giving you assistance if it is needed. Please join me in thanking all of them for their help today. As we begin, let me explain our procedure. Each of the candidates will begin with an opening statement, and that will be followed by a question and answer period with questions coming from any of you in the audience. If you have a question that you would like to submit any time throughout the meeting, there are forms available for that purpose. Raise your hand if you need a form or a pen, and you may write one question, please, per form. which may be directed to any one of the candidates or to all. Please indicate who your question is for, and then when that is finished, you could raise your hand again, and someone will come and pick up your question to bring it to the front. We really rely on your participation today, or this could be a short meeting and an early lunch. So please do share your questions. Candidates, this is not a debate, so no one should expect to offer a rebuttal to anyone's opponent's comment or interrupt when someone is speaking. Each candidate will speak when it is their turn, following the time limits strictly. To the audience, let me say a word about decorum. Matthew Neely has already said a word or two about that. At this forum, we will have respectful behavior and courtesy from the audience. There will be no booing, no shouting, no interruptions of any kind, no profanity, no speeches from the floor, or disrespect. Applause is appropriate after the statement of the candidate is complete. Please follow these rules. We will start with the candidates' opening statements, which are limited to 3 minutes each. Our thanks to our timekeepers, who will indicate when you have 30 seconds left with a yellow indicator, and it looks like that there in the front row, okay, prior to the red stop indicator. The candidates will follow these time limits strictly to maintain order and fairness. If the candidate goes past the red indicator, I will remind you and intervene. The first opening statement will come from our mayoral candidates, the first being Mayor Don Kendrick. Please welcome Mayor Kendrick. Mayor Kendrick, you have 3 minutes.
For Hillcrest residents, I have been a member of the Business Associates for 20 years, and we have created a paper garden outside Woods, paid the $20,000 cost of the chapel doors. I chaired a fundraising dinner that raised $50,000 for the creation and building of furniture inside the Hillcrest Chapel, and chaired the Good Samaritan dinner 8 times, raising over $500,000. I facilitated 3 real estate transactions that helped create the new development at Hillcrest West along Park Avenue, the final property holdout and being able to move forward with the full Hawthorne project, and the north 5 acres of the leased nursery property when suddenly it became available. For our city in 2011, I helped co-found the first economic development committee ever in Verne. And the outcome? San Paulo Business District, just north of the Brackett Airfield, is full. Additional properties have been added to the San Paulo Business District, and they are also fully occupied. Gilead Biopharmaceutical Company has been added on the 23 acres west of the San Paulo Business District, with the city receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional revenue, and Gilead currently employing 500 employees. In 7 to 8 years, when Gilead is built out, they will employ 1,000 people, all spending money in Verne. Foothill Boulevard reached 97% occupancy and will again when the vacant Osh building reopens with a new business and with the completion of the new restaurant at the site of the previous Baker's Square restaurant. Verne has reached my goal of 100 restaurants, from fine dining to fast food, bringing in additional revenue, and from many living outside of Verne. Verne has had a huge influx of restaurants in Old Town. In the last 6 years, restaurant sales just in this area have increased from under $4 million to over $13 million in 2019. Other accomplishments I founded hands-on history for the Bonita Unified School District. In the last 30 years, 100,000 students and 25,000 parents have participated. I co-founded the Career and Technical Education Center at Fairplex, with hundreds of graduating high school students are being hired into well-paying and career-oriented jobs. I started Verne Cop Talk, a program with the police department to help make our city safer after 100,000 state prisoners have been early released to the public starting in 2011. I am a collaborative leader working to bring out the best in everyone, leading to high-quality decisions for high quality of life for every resident in Laverne. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kendrick. Next, we will hear from candidate Tim Hepburn. Please welcome Mr. Hepburn. Thank you. Mr. Hepburn, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Matthew Neely, Hillcrest and Laverne residents, for letting me share with you my vision for this great city going forward. What unites us all is greater than what divides us. We all want what's best for Laverne. Before I became your councilman for the last 5 years, we have sponsored Teacher of the Year, Good Samaritan Dinner, sponsor for Downtown Laverne, for the Beer Walk, Wine Walk, Taste of Laverne, Laverne Ed Foundation, and Golf Tournament. I was on the Bond Oversight Committee, Chair of the Planning Commission, Bonita Heights Beautification Committee. I received the Jim Scranton Award for Community Involvement, received the Founders Award for Community Service. I was president of BHS Boosters, T-ball coach, baseball sponsor, ASO coach, board member and sponsor, team parent for multiple high school sports, PTA member, choral sponsor. I'm currently a member of Laverne Rotary. I serve as the 3rd vice president on the San Gabriel Valley's Council of Governments. I'm very honored to be endorsed by all of the school board members. I am very proud to have done all of these for my community, but I am very proud to have served on the Hillcrest Board of Directors from 2009 to 2015. During that time, along with board members, Hillcrest residents, and CEO Matthew Neely, we made many financial and physical improvements for Hillcrest. I'm truly honored to have served with all of you. When first on the board of Hillcrest, there was only 89 days cash on hand. And when I left the board, we were at 300 days cash on hand. We were able to pave all the streets. The old meeting house back lot became a new parking lot for all the employees. We rebuilt an auditorium, swim house, worked on plans for Woods and new Hawthorne property. My wife and I put our name on the waiting list at Hillcrest. It seems redundant and silly to list these items, but I want to make sure that those who do not know me understand that I have a background that has prepared me and educated me to take on this role as your mayor. As your city council member together, we have put enhanced infrastructure financing district in place to help Laverne develop the Gold Line Station corridor. We were able to finance our pension obligation bond at a more affordable rate. We are now live streaming our meetings to give access and transparency to our residents. As a council member, I worked tirelessly. On your behalf, I prioritize listening and responding to the residents and your concerns. As mayor, I will continue to build on this success and build for a safer and more inclusive Laverne. As your mayor, I will build relationships with our new council members, as well as rebuilding relationships, current council members, and city staff. I will continue to champion for our residents' employees. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hepburn. And our 3rd candidate for mayor is Zach Gibson. Please welcome Mr. Gibson. Mr. Gibson, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, everyone. It's great to see all you guys here today. The community's struggle for identity in the next few years is a critical issue. More and more people of the community view the impending completion of the Gold Line as an event which will greatly change our community. Open spaces will be filled with residential, commercial, and industrial developments. There is genuine concern that the warmth, friendliness, and small-town atmosphere of Laverne will be lost. I also share this concern. With proper planning, we can prepare for this community growth. We can also strive to retain the same quality of service to the community without tax increases. Now, in truth, I did not write these words. I merely changed the word freeway to Gold Line. These are the words of Frank Johnson, who was a former mayor and council member of Laverne. These were spoken in 1970 during his successful run for a 3rd term of council, 50 years ago. Yet these words still ring so true to what we are facing this very moment. 50 years later, we are unable to follow through on his message. 50 years and we still have not found a way to integrate our community values and ideals into sustainable policy. 50 years proves that the way we have always done it simply just does not work any longer. It is time to look for new ways to achieve Frank Johnson's words, to preserve the sentiment and celebrate the initiative behind them. My experiences during this campaign, as many of yours have been, have made it very clear that change is necessary, not only to the progress and future of our city, our values, and our small town, but change is vital to the preservation of our identity as a community. This is the most crucial election the city has ever faced. It is also one of the only real and democratic elections the city has ever held. In order to honor our values, preserve our identity, and create a future for this city, our citizens, our community, both present and future, it's time for change. Change we can actually be the community Frank spoke of 50 years ago. Change so we can no longer have to hide behind fear tactics or special interests in the name of community and preservation. Change so we do not have to reminisce about our memories of Laverne, but to be actually actively making them. We have a choice between real progress for our city, to look towards the future with a kind eye, embracing the past, or to continue to hold tight to our past with only fleeting glances toward our future in moments of pressure and unprepared judgment. Let's make the right choice and put our community, our values, ourselves, and our future first.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Now we will hear the opening statements from the candidates for a member of the City Council. They will speak in the order of a random draw, the first being Kenny Chang. Please welcome Mr. Chang. Mr. Chang, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for Hillcrest and Laverne Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event and give us the opportunity to present ourselves to all of you. And thank you for all of you for coming here this morning. My name is Kenny Chang. Laverne is a wonderful city and has its own unique characters. In the coming years, we'll be facing a tough new challenges. We simply must address them now before they become serious problems. I'm running for Laverne City Council just to do that. Laverne is a great place to live. That's why my wife and my children moved here. I'm a former banker and now a business owner. I'm also a community emergency response team trained member, trained to be ready to help our residents in case of mass disaster events. I believe that together we can make Laverne an even better city and improve the services that we need. Those who knows me will tell you I'm a problem solver who get things done. I'm passionate about public service and preserving the quality of life that we have. I also believe our government must, first and foremost, serve our residents. That's why I will work to strengthen our police and fire protection and achieve an optimal staffing level. Expand our neighborhood watch program to deter crime. Help our children save and introducing school watch program in every school. Enhance benefits for our seniors. Support a balanced budget that uses the city financial resources wisely. Ensure that new projects in the city reflect, first and foremost, our residents' needs and values. What I have to offer is my commitment, motivation, and in-depth knowledge and broad experience in finance required to make Laverne a safer and more hospitable place to live for all our families. I will also use my best judgment in making decisions that affect everyone in our city. I'm my own man, and I will answer only to the people of Laverne. As someone who knows how to identify common values and build bridges between communities, I will serve all people at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Next, we will hear the opening statement from Gill. Please welcome Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd just like to say thank you, Hillcrest, for allowing us to be able to go ahead and talk today. As you can see, what the moderator said, my name is r.a.g. Gill. I was with the military for 22 years, and I've been with the film industry for another 10. A lot of the things that we learn and do in those particular areas is we learn leadership, we learn and have experience, we learn how to budget, we learn about finances, and we learn how to make sure that we take care of our people. As an NCO, our area was always to take care of our troops. We monitored them, they answered to us, and nobody else. We were the wall before the officers. Verne has changed since I first landed here in '76 with my family. It's gotten bigger, it's gotten brighter, a lot more people. I remember Hillcrest back then, and I look at it now and I can only say, wow. So many changes have happened over the last decades. I came back in 2015 after I retired just so I can enjoy the time here. A lot of my friends never left and still are here. We still get together, we still talk, and we still enjoy each other's company after almost 35 years. They love this town, and I do as well. I definitely want to see our city council change. I have always stressed the power of 3, and I will not change until the last vote has come in, because we do need that change now more than ever. We need to see what's going on with our finances, even if it means an audit to ensure that all the money is going to the right places. We need to ensure that the positions that are held are correctly held, and to add the positions that greatly need to be added, such as a city clerk, such as a human resource manager, and other people that are not currently in our system. We need to make these changes now more than ever. We've given you the videotape so that you can see what's going on, and I hope you take the opportunity to watch and learn as we continue to videotape the City Council. We do this at no charge so that everybody gets a chance to see and learn how your City Council is currently moving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. I also just want to note that there are folks who are ready to take your questions if you have any written down. So while we're conducting the opening statements, if you want someone to come and pick up your question, just raise your hand and they will do that. The next candidate for City Council is Wendy Lau. Please welcome Ms. Lau. Ms. Lau, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity to have us here to speak to you. As I look around this room, you may have noticed me sort of perking up at different times and smiling, and it's because of so many folks in here that I consider friends that I've met over the years of living here in Laverne and having gone to school here. When I came to school here at the University of Laverne in the late 90s, I thought I had stumbled into a very magical place. I grew up not too far from here in West Covina, which, as many of you know, is a bigger city, and I could have gone days or weeks walking through my city, going to the store, walking my dog, and never run into somebody that I might know or have someone wave at me on the streets. When I came to the University of Laverne and when I came to this city, so much of that changed. It was seeing folks walk up to each other, say hello in the streets, at the store, greet each other, they've known each other for years because they had. And it was what propelled me to believe that once I finished college, once I finished law school, my dream was to be able to come back and buy a home here. And that dream was prodded on by other friends that I'd met through university who said, you've got to come live here, it's amazing here, it's where friends live. And so moving here, that's really what's been exemplified for me. I've met folks from all walks of life, from all ages and stages and backgrounds, and it's been an amazing experience. And for me, coming from parents of immigrants who moved their family here to make sure that they had better opportunities for their children, it means a lot to me to be able to give back to the community that has given so much to me, not the least of which is this incredible sense of belonging. And I'd love to increase that sense of belonging for other folks that may be coming into our city or may not have had the experiences that maybe I have had or that you've had. And so that's what's really compelled me to be a part of this community. I currently serve as a planning commissioner, as the vice chair for our planning commission. I'm in my second term. And I sit on the board of trustees for the University of Verne, as well as other organizations throughout the country. And this is really what's important to me because I think that giving back is not an option. It's a thank you for the blessings that you've received in your life. And as I look around this room, I look at folks who have contributed so much of their time and energy to this city. And I think about how vital and vibrant and important that is. Throughout this campaign period, I've been to many meet and greets and many forums where the public has turned out, and that's important. And I'd like to remind all of us that government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I'm here to make sure that your voice is heard and that all perspectives are analyzed and that every situation is evaluated from all perspectives so that we can come up with the best solutions for all of us. I thank you again so much for your time and your participation. It means the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lott. Next, we will hear the opening statement from Wally Emory. Please welcome Mr. Emory. Mr. Emory, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for being here today. It means democracy is in motion. My name is Wally Emory. I'm the proud husband of Pamela Emory, who gave me the green light to be here today. So here it goes. Community service has always been a way of life for me. It started in my high school years when I did my Eagle Scout project. Then came college, then came my stint in the Army. After returning to South Pasadena, I got involved in many projects, some of which are. With 30 years of combined municipal service, some of which was at the highest level of city government, I plan on bringing all those experiences to Laverne. I was fortunate enough to be trained as a grant officer in Seattle, Washington. Grants are difficult to come by today, but perhaps some of that knowledge might be shared here in Laverne. I've served as the planning commissioner in a different city. We wrote the city's first comprehensive plan and worked diligently to keep more cell phone towers from coming in to that town. I served South Pasadena as a reserve police officer, and after 18 years of service, I retired as the commander. I was elected to mayor in South Pasadena, mayor pro tem, and a council member. During our tenure, the 5 of us in South Pasadena, we were faced with many different and difficult situations, one of which was we had to remove and replace our city attorney. We had to remove and replace our police chief. And we had to hire a new city manager to serve because he moved to another city. That just happens. So I know how to make difficult decisions. I was also elected to vice president of the Independent Cities Association, some 50 cities strong. I would not hesitate to ask my fellow mayors and council members of other cities how they might have gotten over a hurdle that now faces Laverne. As mayor of South Pasadena, I led the city through the planning, construction, and completion and dedication of the Gold Line. I assure you that when we hear that word Gold Line, all that glitters is not gold. I plan on sharing all of that knowledge here in Laverne that I learned as mayor of South Pasadena with the Gold Line coming through town. Again, thank you very much. When you scroll down the list and find Wally Emory, please remember my service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emory. The next candidate for City Council is Richard Crosby. Please welcome Mr. Crosby. Mr. Crosby, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming out today. It's a great pleasure to see everybody out and being, working with democracy and really going out and really finding out about each candidate. I implore you to really read about all of us and make sure that you know everything about us so that you make that, that educational vote. My name is Verne Crosby. I'm running for City Council. I have 23 years in education. 10 of those years I taught here in Laverne at the middle school Ramona. Running this election is almost like dealing with middle school kids every single day. But it's a great experience. So I was a teacher for 10 years, I was a principal, and now I'm currently the assistant superintendent of human resource in DeWarding. So I believe that background of working with budgets, working with schools, working with a district that has a $47 million budget and with over 500 employees, it fits me to be part of your city council. Part of my tenure, I did a lot of volunteering. I'm a Rotarian. I've coached sports, football, basketball, soccer, golf, and been very involved in youth activities. Also, with making sure my core beliefs are always being followed. My core beliefs are nurturing relationships, facilitating collaboration, and leading by example with a strong work ethic. I want to make sure that in Laverne, how I got here was going to school here in Laverne and a University of Laverne graduate. And I want to make sure that there are 3 things that I'm going to do for you as your city council member. I want to make sure and maintain and keep our city safe. And by doing that is protecting our police, fire, and paramedic staffing levels. I want to protect our community's park and open spaces. I want to preserve the Sierra Laverne Golf Course property as open space. I want to make sure that we finance and maintain our parks for our youth and for everybody and make sure they're clean for everyone to use. And I want to bring in and facilitate smart economic development and support small business. I want to work with the city administrators and really promote our city so that we bring in businesses that all of our residents can work with. I want to be the voice of the residents. My phone number is always there. I'll have it hand out to you today so that you can see it as well and call me anytime so I can be your voice. I want to remind you, I'm the first one on the ballot, the best choice for Laverne. And remember, Rick Crosby, and you can always come out on crosbyforcouncil.com. Thank you so much for being here and really appreciate your being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Jeremy Milici? Sorry? Absent. Thank you. All right, then, and we will hear an opening statement from Mario Esqueda. Please welcome Mr. Esqueda.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Neely, for having us here, and Chaplain Hostetler. I really appreciate it. I'm a little nervous because this is the first time I've been up on this stage. I've been sitting down there for many years because as a resident, Hillcrest has so graciously opened up their this meeting house for many of the sports banquets where I've sat there, and I thank you for that. My daughters have, excuse me, I'm so nervous. They've been up here for the town shows, and it's just a little different viewpoint of what I'm experiencing now to what I've been down there supporting the community with. So thank you very much once again for opening up the meeting house. I'm the last person on, I'm not even on the ballot. I'm a write-in candidate. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through my statement. Several weeks ago, I decided to move forward to seek office here as a candidate for council after the recent turn events of our national leadership. We've also experienced some debate issues nationally. Unfortunately, I think some of that temperament has kind of trickled down into our local municipal elections. Candidacy should not be simply for the sole purpose of actual office. It should be an example of service. The block our homes are on, I live a block down and 2 blocks over. I may be living in this area longer than many of the residents, because I was there when Hillcrest Drive was really just the field and the oak tree. And that's how wonderful the things have happened for this specific retirement community, and it's just a great thing. Setting the example of service, and yet most importantly, the mutual respect towards all community residents and also our civic leaders is important. Opportunities is still available for me to seek your support as the writing candidate. I've been living here for many years, for 20 plus years, and I appreciate what this community has to offer. The importance of continued growth of our city businesses, the foundation of the university, and the unified district. We need to support the local community homes, such as Hillcrest, David and Margaret, and Leroy Haynes, and our public employees. I think Kenny kind of started off with earlier with the elections. The original intent was a form of service and representation for our neighbors, and unfortunately that has eroded nationwide. These values I've described at a grassroots level from with our own city could serve as an example to our national leadership, and also allow for the reframing of the relationships of our citizens and public servants, and also our city employees. True leadership is not limited to those who reside within our capital. It should begin and exist within our own Verne and surrounding communities. Like I mentioned, I've been a 20-year resident. I'm retired military for the United States Air Force. I'm a graduate from the University of Verne with my MBA in 2003, and I think I've run out of time. So if you have any other questions, I'm back there. I have some candies for everybody if you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda. Now we come to the question and answer period when the candidates will be given 2 minutes to respond to the questions that the audience is submitting. In these rules of procedure, please remember that there is no time given in debate or rebuttal, so I advise each candidate to state their case fully when it is their turn. In the case where the question is addressed to all candidates for mayor or for all of the candidates for city council, we will once again use the random draw for the order for speaking. Here's the first question, and it is addressed to all of the mayoral candidates. Please speak to the importance of congeniality and transparency in civic politics. Mayor Kendrick, 2 minutes.
Transparency is a two-way street. One is it's a responsibility of the government agency to provide the transparency, and it's also important for those that want to know the information to be able to get it and to make the effort to get it. So transparency is wonderful. We've done a lot of things to make available things in our city. We've gone to the live stream so you can watch it on your computer. We've got a city manager newsletter. We've got Know the Facts. There's a lot of stuff on the website that creates a lot of information for everybody in our city. But again, you got to go get it, and then it's there if you want it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hepburn.
Since I've been on council, we as the residents, transparency is extremely important for us. Like Mayor Kendrick stated, before we had no live streaming of our council meetings, which is very important for people that don't have the mobility or the access to get to the meetings in order to see the meetings. Also, congeniality, it's extremely important. We are public figures. We should always keep good decorum. We should be polite and let residents speak, but also speak in a decent tone where not offending people at the dais, which has been an issue lately. And those two things are extremely important. But the transparency, since I've been on council, we have done so much of governance with people coming to the meetings. There's issues out in the city. They come, they get signatures, they come, we talk, we discuss, and that's the most important thing. But again, back to congeniality, I think it's so important that we keep a nice decorum. People respect each other in this community, and I think that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson.
Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree that respect is the most important thing. If we don't have respect for each other, respect for ourselves, then we're really not going to listen to anybody. We're not going to come together. And if we're not walking together, then we're just going to fall apart. We're all in this together. This is our city, and we got to make the choices. The thing about transparency is great, but if I'm if I'm looking out my window and I see somebody stealing a car, that's transparency. You have to add things to it. You have to add accountability on top of transparency. So to say to the residents that we have the website, but I've tried to use the website and it is antiquated at best and just downright terrible at worst, we need to update the things and we need to modernize the way we get information to the citizens. We need the citizens to want to be engaged, and look, you guys want to be engaged. We're up here not because we just want fame and glory, or at least I hope not, but we want to help. And with transparency comes accountability, it comes justice and reform, comes oversight, and the oversight is by citizens and by policy that we decide upon. And I think that it's extremely important to have true transparency and not just say that if you guys want it, come and get it, but actually go out and offer it. That way we can just find it. If you just Google something, you can find whatever you want. And that's the way the government should be. It should be hiding nothing from you. You should be able to find out whatever you want to know about your government the minute you want to know it. Unless it's got to go through proper channels, then that's the soonest you're going to get it, and that's just the way that it is. Thank you, sorry about that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The second question is also for the mayoral candidates. No, I'm sorry, it's for mayoral and council candidates, so everyone will respond to this question. And it is a follow-up question having to do kind of with the first question, and it is, how will you handle disruptive and controversial issues as mayor or council member? And so we will start with the city council candidates, Mr. Chang.
Thank you for the question. The way to handle any issues, I believe, is based on documentation and facts, and the issues at the time that happens. We can be emotional, we can be pro certain things, but at the end of the day, I believe that we can all come together is really to listen. I believe everybody has a voice and point of view to look at things and discuss about the issues, and not just a one-sided decisions. I think it has to be a communication back and forth between residents and the leadership, city council, and collect, research, look at the information and facts to then decide the issue at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Over the last 6 months, we've seen an increasing amount of people being upset at the city council. And unfortunately, there's been good reason why. The only thing that we can do when it comes to an area where it becomes hotter and an increasing volatile situation is, first of all, just relax and speak with the people or the group one-on-one. Listen to them to figure out what their side is and get an understanding. And then, like Mr. Chang said, and many of the ones that are up here will say, is to work it out so that it doesn't escalate to a higher situation where we have more and more explosive meetings where people are outright just livid. We're a good community and we need to stay that way. We need to go ahead and be pretty much balanced and to speak with each other in a calm tone, regardless of our current situations or our feelings. The only way to get past any kind of situation is to be able to speak each other with the politeness that we should give and the respect as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lau.
Thank you. Can you hear me? By way of background, for those of you that may not know me, I served for 16 years as a litigator. And so in that role, people often think, well, you must be very confrontational and you must have to be very aggressive. And actually, my style in being an attorney was actually very much about conflict resolution. Because at the end of the day, the goal was to make sure that the sides were able to come to a compromise about whatever the issue was. Because the truth is, litigation is expensive, and it's not only expensive in financial terms, it's also expensive in terms of your emotional energy. And so for me, the goal was always to find a compromise between the two sides so that we could move forward to a resolution. Keeping that anger or that emotional high does not benefit anyone. And so looking at some of these city council meetings and the climate of the city in recent times has been disconcerting for me, to say the least, because that's not why I moved to this city. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I moved here because of the sense of community. I moved here because this is where friends live. And where I come from, friends don't speak to each other like that. And so I think it's important for whoever sits at the council dais to model the way and to actually be a role model for others, to display calm in the face of the storm and to exemplify peace when you may not feel it all the time. But it's also important for us all to take a breath. Emotions can take over easily, but we also are masters of our own actions. And so we have to really think about, how do we want to be remembered and how do we want to be perceived? Those of us who have children, you can think about it in those terms. What would you want your children to know about you, and how would you want them to behave? Similarly, how do we want our citizens to behave? We have to model that behavior and encourage effective dialogue and communication. And so I think that's really going to be what will move us forward, is having a council that works together to model the way for our citizenry.
Thank you, Ms. Lau. Mr. Emory.
Thank you. In a previous commitment in South Pasadena as mayor and mayor pro tem, we would limit public portions to 3 minutes. Secondly, we held all of our meetings under Robert's Rules of Order. I think Laverne's oligarchy form of government doesn't fit the lifestyle in Laverne any longer. I plan on being open, transparent. I'm going to have office hours where you can come visit. There is a responsibility for any one of us when and if we get elected. Secondly, we should be working under Robert's Rules of Order, which I don't think we are. Thirdly, there's a little thing called the Brown Act that I don't think we're functioning under. And if someone was out of line, and if I'm elected, I would ask the mayor for a point of order and ask the city attorney if this issue that's being lectured to us is city business or if it's a civil matter. If it's a civil matter, I think we should move on to the next person that wants to address the city council. We can all act like ladies and gentlemen and be proud to be in this city. I came here because I wanted to live in Laverne. I had many, many other choices, but I chose Laverne. And I think with a new government and new faces on the council, we can get back to that Mayberry feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emory. Mr. Crosby.
Thank you so much. The last year and a half, 2 years is when I believe why is this question is coming up, because we've had some discourse in our city council meetings, and they were primarily based on personnel issues. And my background as a human resource officer of a school district will help bring that back and making sure that we are, again, building relationships, facilitating collaboration, and working together. We need to be soft on people, but hard on our policies. Make sure that we are not taking it personal. Because we are public figures, sometimes people feel that they can attack us, but they're trying to attack that seat, not that person in itself. Last night, I was at the Twin Oaks Mobile Home Park, and one thing I suggested is really getting people involved, and how to do that is by going to them and to all of our mobile home parks and our retirement center. Our average age of Laverne is between 50 and 84. That we go to the people once a quarter and really find out what they want and what they want to be too, and bring the people back. That's what's going to make our civil discourse, and make sure that we are working together rather than make it being isolated at one or two city council meetings. And make sure that, again, we're not taking it personal, and that we follow and guide our own rules, and making sure that we are the examples so that people see that as well. Thank you so much and for having me today.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Mr. Esqueda.
First of all, I think, well, I want to apologize to Tim and to Don, because I know that I've seen the city council's meetings, how they've gone, and it's unfortunate that residents feel that they need to go up there and offer their opinionated platform and end up with a rant. I believe that we need to have, like Wally says, there needs to be rules of order, there needs to be time, and I believe that anybody that's going to come up to the city council, they need to provide us with some information, something that's objective, and possibly a solution for the council members to look and maybe even consider and act on, because that's what the constituents want. That's what the elected officials are there for. But I see that the platforms and the discord between certain individuals within the city, they're the ones that are driving the city council meetings. Don sits there silent, Tim sits there silent, and I know it's very hard for them. I wouldn't want to sit there and just not be able to say anything while somebody comes and rants on me because of one person's opinion or what group or so forth. There needs to be a definitive order, rules that need to be followed, and I would ask that the people that are participating in the process, they need to come up with something objectively to provide the council so they can consider on behalf of the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda. Now we'll hear from Mayor Kendrick the question, how do you handle disruptive and controversial issues?
It's hard. As Mario just talked about, there's a difference of our city council meetings right now. But also, controversy is not all bad. Because I think with controversy and with different opinions, I think you can get to a better place. I know that we've had many situations in our city over the years that not everybody has agreed. But if everybody gets a chance to voice their opinion, then you can get to a better outcome. And if you can get to a better outcome, then we have a better project, we have a better community because people's voices got heard, and we've seen a lot of that over the years, and I think it's very good. Just because you have a different opinion doesn't mean it's bad. And if you don't agree with somebody, that may be a good thing because your ideas may be better than the other person's. So getting more and more people involved creates maybe some controversy in the beginning, but I think you start peeling back that onion and you end up with something sweet in the inside because the end result is the best. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hepburn.
The meetings have been, that has been an issue, but being a public figure, you have to take that into consideration when you're up there on the dais. You're going to get controversial situations come on. I'm a firm believer in Robert's Rules of Order. I think we need to institute those immediately. We'd work with the new council of elected mayor. We need to keep things organized, and we need to keep some decorum at the dais, and make sure the dais and the podium is focused towards the council. And I think it's very important for people to get out, especially if there's an issue. It may be controversial, but it may be an issue that's very serious to the community, and we need to address that. And we need to move forward and work with those individuals or those members of certain communities in our city that need help. But Robert's Rules of Order needs to be in place. We must keep our meetings under control. It has been, at least to say, very interesting and very interesting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hepburn. Mr. Gibson.
Very interesting. So, disruptive and controversial issues. I believe preventative measures generally work in any situation. And for situations like this, where people feel that they can't come together and they're so far apart on certain issues, I believe we can put certain things in place like mediation services, advisory boards, yearly development resources. These are the things that other cities have that we can put in place and make it very readily available and very known that you guys can come to these places before it needs to go to a shouting match in front of the entirety of the city community, and now that we're filming things, the entire world. So it reflects how we handle these situations or wait to handle them until they become shouting matches reflects on us as a city. So if we try and put in measures that prevent these things from happening, that's not going to prevent everything. Things are going to boil over. There are contentious issues. But if we're able to sit down and talk beforehand and have a nice meeting place and places like that, then we're going to be able to take away at least most of that. I know in my world, I work in film, and whenever there's a problem on set, shut it down, all department heads, everybody get together, we're all having a meeting, and we talk about the one problem, even if it's only affecting 1 out of the 50 people at the meeting. Everybody needs to know the problem that's going on so that we're all better aware and better informed. And I think that's the way we need to start running this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. The third question is for all of the candidates, and it is, what is your position on Measure LV? And do you plan to publicly endorse or oppose it? And we will begin this round with Mr. Esqueda.
So, I'm not a big proponent for increased taxes. Unfortunately, the city is, there's some litigation. The end result was that things had to be resolved out of the city's budget. The measure specifically is for the public safety departments, also the Parks and Recreation, if I'm not mistaken, also the road improvements and stuff like that. But we get money from those last two from the census. So it's going to be really driven towards public safety. So I know there's talk about whether or not the county is going to go in for an additional tax increase. I know that the monies that will be here allocated for under this measure, if it's voted, if it's approved by the constituents, that it's going to be specifically earmarked for our city. And we're kind of, for lack of a better word, jumping the gun before somebody else comes in and takes it. So we really do need it. We need to develop our public safety departments. There's some shortfalls there, so I would endorse the increase. It's not too much. It's capped statewide at 10 1/4. It's going to bring us to 9.75%. So we still have a little bit of a leeway before, but we really need to adopt it because the money is going to be specifically used for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda. Mr. Crosby.
No one likes new taxes, especially in California in education. There's so many taxes that are promised for one thing and then not put on what they are for. But this tax, for Measure LV. We are currently at 9.5, and it's a 3/4 cent tax. I want to put my stance right now. I am for it, and the only reason why I'm for it is because it's going back to us. Every cent of this tax goes back to Verne. But we need to make sure that we maintain that we have an oversight committee on there. And I put out that we should also have an object code that is in our budget on a line so that you know exactly where that money is and then where it's going. I do not want it just to go straight into the general fund and then mixed up with everything else, but we know exactly where that money's going, because it is not, especially people with fixed incomes, it is difficult to have anything raised, and we need to make sure that we are being good stewards of the money that's coming in and watching where that money is going out. So my official stance is that I'm for LV, but I'm not for any new taxes after that. We got too many taxes going on in California.
Thank you. Mr. Emory.
Thank you. I'm on record as saying that I was against the tax only because I was of the impression that it was going to police and fire, and I was not guaranteed in any way, shape, or form that that's where those tax dollars would go. If elected, and the sales tax issue does not pass and it fails, I would immediately call for a forensic study of the city's finances and find out just exactly where the city of Laverne is. Are they right side up, upside down? They have a little tucked away someplace? That's fine. If they don't, then I would move immediately for a emergency services tax that would not go into the abyss that some people call the general fund. And it would be marked only for police and fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lau?
I'm in favor of Measure LV for a number of reasons. If you have the opportunity to talk to folks who are working towards securing the measure, you'll know that there is a gap in our expenditures and what we're able to pay. The $3.1 million or approximate $3.1 million of revenue that would be raised through this tax would go first and foremost towards our public safety and our services. And for those of you that have lived here, whether it's been for a year or 30 years, you know that our public services have been exemplary, whether it is our police and fire or our guys in the, our unsung heroes in public works who make sure that our streets are paved and safe and that we don't have any issues. Those folks for the last 2 years have not seen an increase in their salaries. And so for them, they've taken the sacrifice of doing that for us, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of our folks who take care of us. And to the point of autonomy, I'm a big, big proponent of autonomy in the sense that we should be able to govern what happens with our own money. This tax, if imposed in the city, goes back to us for us to decide how to use. The measure in itself already provides for an oversight committee of citizens to help police that and make sure the funds go where it's supposed to go. If this doesn't pass, it allows the opportunity for the county or other entities to then tax us and take that money to spend as they see fit. I want Laverne dollars to be spent in Laverne in the way in which Laverne residents best see fit for the betterment of this community. So I am for LV, Measure LV.
Thank you, Ms. Lau. Mr. Gill.
Yeah, I'm the odd duck. I still say no, and I will always say no. Until an audit has been done of our current financial, I would not approve of it. I understand what everybody's saying about money going in, but it's still right now designated to go into a general fund, and I don't approve of that. If it was designated specifically for a purpose, maybe. But at this point in time, I have and will vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chang.
Thank you. I believe we all agree, most of us are not in favor of the increase in taxes on the Shell B. However, many also have discussed the pros and cons. And my view is that this will be, or probably could be, a better written measure so that there's less confusion. However, based on my finance background, I see this more on the short-term basis. because as we all know, there's a big gap on our budget, and we need to figure out how we're going to be able to pay for that without disrupting any of the services that we currently receive. Therefore, in short, I am in favor. Whoever wins the election, that would need that short-term boost to help them, as I mentioned, to not stop any services and carry on. And I'm a strong believer as well to have a forensic, audit on our financials to make sure, moving forward. I'm more of a long-term person, not just short-term. Yeah, let's raise taxes and let's move on. But what if, as Alder mentioned, what if we don't make it? If we don't pass this? Even if we pass it, we still need to find out what we are spending, how we are spending, and how those spendings are benefiting our citizens here in Laverne. So I see that as a short-term solution, to help the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Mr. Gibson, do you have a position on Measure LB?
I most certainly do, and it's no on it. That's not saying being against this tax is not saying that you don't want more money for the city. Being against this tax for me is talking to the man who started the pact to get this tax, Jeremy Conrad. Flat out told him, I told him I don't really like the wording, it's going to a general fund, it's not earmarked for anything specific, therefore it can be pushed anywhere. And then he just flat out said, well, this is my first time doing anything like this, and I copy and pasted it from what Arcadia passed, and I don't think that's right because we're nothing like Arcadia. So I don't think that, we're essentially passing a tax that works for Arcadia, and that's not right. I think the oversight in it is too weak. I think just appointing 5 people to go, yeah, that's fine, that's not even oversight, that's just people agreeing with you since the council gets to choose who it is. It's not anybody from the outside. And like people have harped on, what we need is an actual forensic audit. We need an outside audit so then we can see our spending. If you go to any department, they do not have a list of expenditures of what they spend money on. They just take it out of the pot, and now we only have this much left. We need to be able to know what we're spending money on first before we can even add more money to that. How do we know that this is not a spending problem and we're just hoarding money over here? I think that Laverne is an essentials needs city. That's what we spend money on, is our essential needs before we spend anything on recreational and luxury. And to me, this seems more recreational and luxury than basic needs, the way that it's written. Would I like more money to be able to give those services and keep providing them the way they say that? Yes, that'd be great, but the way that this is worded, absolutely not.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. Hepburn, do you have a comment?
I am in support of Measure LB. I do understand its taxes. It is 3/4 cent sales tax that goes completely to the city. I am in favor of a forensic audit before any of the measure is spent to make sure what we're spending it on. We as residents need to open up those books and find out where the money's being spent now, whether it needs to go to public safety, whether it needs to go to infrastructure. We need to know that. We need line item by line item to understand what we're paying, just like our utility bill or our spectrum bill. You need to know what you're paying for and how you're paying for it. I was instrumental in putting the language in there for a 5-member oversight. And we have a very talented pool of people in our community, and I think that bankers, people in 401ks, retirement, that would be the standing committee for this. And I'm in 100% support of that. But we do need a forensic audit, and we do need to see where that money's going to go before 1 cent is spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hepburn. And Mayor Kendrick.
Currently, every year we do have an audit, and we get a no findings back this year, which is the highest level of audit that you can receive. If this package was designated as public safety only, it would take a 2/3 vote to have passed it. If it's general fund with an emphasis toward public safety, it can be passed with a 50% plus one. There's two agencies that are circling for this 0.75%. If we get it first and the county goes to 10 1/4, we do not have to pay one dime to the county. All of this comes to us. If we do not pass this and the county does pass it, or AQMD passes it, all that money goes to them and we will receive virtually nothing. So I think it's important to make sure that that money comes to Laverne. I've heard sometimes people say that, well, the state's just going to raise the sales tax higher than 10 1/4. LA County is the only county in the state of Los Angeles that has anything close to 10 1/4. A lot of the other ones are lower than that. And the reason is because the voters of the county of Los Angeles have taxed themselves on a lot of transportation and homeless bills that have come along that have taxed themselves for those different types of funding. So this last 0.75%, if it passes, will come strictly and totally to Laverne and not go anywhere else. But there is an emphasis on public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been sitting for an hour and 15 minutes. Stand up, 30 seconds. Say hello to your neighbor. Verne is not isolated from the rest of the world and, like other cities, is seeing changes in climate. What are your thoughts on climate change, and what actions would you like to see for Laverne from an environmental point of view? Okay, so there's a big question. Let's start with Mr. Emory.
I'm not a weather person. I do strongly believe in winter, summer, spring, and fall. And I enjoy all of those. You know, if you got a top coat, you go out in the winter. If you don't, you stay home. I don't think it's been proven to me one way or the other if there's a big climate change or not. I was raised in the summer at a little place called Crystal Cove in Orange County. And every year when we went down there, the high tide mark, we got the Farmer's Almanac, and it was always in the same place every year. So I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. Summer, winter, spring, fall, I love them all.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
It seems to be, though, we're getting a lot more summer than we're getting winter and fall. Listening to the news just yesterday morning that if it does not rain before Sunday, this will be the 4th largest drought for a January and a February since they've recorded it in the 1800s. But as City Council, what we can do is make sure that we maintain our recycling, maintaining our green that we can do, and maintain our open spaces. Make sure that we are not just building out on every piece of grass or lawn that we can, and that we are maintaining our trees and open spaces so that we can get those oxygen, so that we can blow hot air to you guys today. And really appreciate us coming out and helping out, but we just got to make sure that we all work together and recycle.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda.
Thank you for whoever submitted that question. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I was driving the tractor during the harvest time over at the Heritage Foundation. I'm telling you, we need to get something on that exhaust system, because I really was having a hard time and a headache for the whole day that I was driving the tractor. So, but I think probably on a climate change, probably the biggest concern for me is water reclamation. When we do have rain, it just goes down the street, it goes into the sewers. And the unfortunate part for Laverne is that here in Laverne, I know that we do have wells within the city. And those wells, when there is a drought, they dry up, and it affects the streets and the parking lots, and things start sinking in reality. So we need to probably look and work with, I don't know, I guess it would be county corporate engineers or something like that, to try to reclaim the water when it does come down. because that's probably one of the most important things. Maybe look at different opportunities within the community for establishing some sort of runoff wetland area or something like that. I mean, that could be something that we can consider with the open space that we have available. But I know that cities are looking at opportunities like that, but we really need to be concerned about water reclamation. When it does come, we need to try to keep it here within the city for our water tables.
Okay, thank you. Where are we? Mr. Chang.
I grew up in South Central America in my childhood, and it's very tropical down there. Then my young adult life, I grew up in Boston, which is cold and freezing if you've been there. And now I'm here in LA. So I experienced all those climate changes. And all I can say is really start from each of us. Recycling. And also what the city could do is continue to maintain open spaces, maintain our trees, and also creating areas where citizens can walk, dine, and bike, right? So, and that will help reduce the emission of the cars, and as we all know, we all need cars, yes, but if we can drive less, then we can help the environment and help the climate change. We won't be able to stop it completely, but a little bit helps. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
As we've seen in the last couple of years, or even longer, that it has been getting warmer. I think the hottest temperature I've had to endure myself personally was in Kuwait at 137 plus, which for them is a picnic. What I'm concerned about is, as it gets hotter, we need to look at the senior citizens and a lot of the people in general for the possibility that may include rolling blackouts that could possibly be coming, water rationing that could be coming. We have to look at these. We have to look at how to maintain and take care of those people that are in situations where if the rolling blackouts do happen, are they going to be able to go someplace to be able to cool down? We have to understand that what we see now more than ever is that things around us are changing. And hopefully, we will be able to take care of those that need to be taken care of during the timing crisis. But I do think that we need to go ahead and monitor our weather closely. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lau?
I think there are a lot of things that we need to look at as population increases. That's not something that is going to stop anytime soon. That population increase obviously has an impact on the resources that we use, the amount of them, the types of them, and then what the impact of disposing of our waste materials ends up being. And so I think as a city, we can be forward-thinking in terms of recycling, in terms of how are we allocating our resources to those activities, and how are we making sure that we're educating our public about the best ways to do that. And I think you see pockets of that already. As I mentioned, we do have recycling bins for our citizens as it is. If you look at Bonita High School has a program where they collect electronics for recycling. And so I think that education is happening more and more in this day and age, and I think it's a continuation of that. And it's a looking to how do we partner better with existing companies, organizations, resources to make sure that we're being as green as possible so that we're conserving the resources that we're using within our own city and making sure that there's resources available for us in the years to come. And so you see some of that with the LEED architecture and buildings of the new things that are coming into place. You see that in some of the impositions of building code requirements and restrictions. And so we have the ability to some extent to make those regulations possible to make sure that we are conserving those resources and being as smart and as efficient with what we have to make sure that we are preparing for our future. So I think, again, it's this ongoing education and sharing of information that's going to be really important as the years go on. So I really think that, again, there are things that we're not going to be able to change, population increase in density. So what can we do as things change to move that change along and direct that change versus letting things happen to us?
Thank you. Mr. Hepburn.
I do believe we need to protect our planet, and I think global warming is an issue, but I think at the city level, we need to keep our parks green, we need to keep our trees. If they're dying, we need to replace them. I do believe also the AQMD is constantly giving out grant information to go electric to all of our vehicles, our mowing equipment and things like that. I think that's something we really need to look at. I know they have some propane vehicles in the city. It's extremely important. We have a delicate planet, and things are happening that are, they should be of a concern to us. But I think each individual, if you can go to electric charging vehicle, that's great. Solar is great now. A lot of us have solar on our homes. Get off the grid and help protect with greenhouse gases. I think it's extremely important. Packaging, as a city or a community to our state legislatures, the packaging, the trash, that you package one item and it has 58,000 pieces of styrofoam in one item in the middle of the box. That's ridiculous. I think we need to start thinking about things that we do to protect this planet. Plastic water bottles, that needs to go away. We need to have a water source in our house and use the same cup every day. Why not? It's like a coffee cup. Use it every day, wash it out, clean it. So I think we need to be really, really aware of what's going on. And we need to push our city to go more green. I think our lawnmower equipment needs to be electric, and we need to push that. Also, I know that Hawthorne Property is going to have solar on their homes. Is that not correct, Ms. Neely? Which means that gets you off the grid. So, yes, we have an issue. We need to address it here locally, globally. I think it's extremely important. We only have one planet. We need to take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson?
Global warming is real, and it's pretty scary. I'm 30 years old. I'm turning 31 next month, and it's really going to affect me. And if and when I have children, they're really going to have to deal with it, and that's really upsetting to me. I think steps that we could take. It's easy, but it's hard to push people in that direction if they don't want to. But what you need to understand is 66% of consumers will pay more for sustainable goods, and that's including repurposed clothing, things like that. So we don't have to make more clothing. Another great way, green initiatives, compost. If we're collecting compost as a city, that doesn't just benefit our gardens and our parks and all that, but the city, community can benefit. If we collect enough, you can start selling that, then you can start generating revenue. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my meeting outside City Hall with a very nice woman, Kim, who said that her husband would love to see charging stations for his electric vehicle because he has to drive all the way to St. Demas just to get his car charged if it's in the middle of the day. I think we should be pushing more for those green solutions, electric cars, not to mention bikes. We're starting to become more bike friendly, but we got the option to get way more bike friendly and be more walk friendly and build those roads, keep sidewalks safe, like I know you've done too, great, thank you, and bring in metro bikes, things like that, that we can all rent, that we can all share. And as a community, that's just keeping us more together. It's keeping us active, then it'll be better that way. It's more recreation. And I think we need to look for alternative green ways to do things because it's more sustainable, and at the end of the day, it's just better for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kendrick?
Great question. First of all, there's a number of things that are being done in Laverne toward this. Restaurants are being more and more required to recycle their waste. The need for alternative fuels is very, very important, and Laverne is more and more of our vehicles are CNG, so they're not diesel, they're not gasoline, so that helps. More and more, I agree with Zach on the charging stations. I think we need more charging stations in Laverne, so that's something that we can certainly look forward to in areas where there's lots of cars parked for longer periods of time. Recycling into 2025 is going to go up to 75%, so we're going to have to be very diligent in making sure we recycle. You can go up and down the street, you don't see gray containers, you don't see green containers, and that's wrong. I think one of the things that I'm involved in is as representative from Laverne to the LA County Sanitation District, is there's an experimental plant of recycling of 1 million gallons a day, realizing that 258 million gallons every day is going out to the ocean. And it's one step below drinking water quality. Well, what happens if that water is sent someplace else? And so the plan is to do a treatment plant down in Carson and then send it right up to 605 into those settling bases. And if we can get 150,000 gallons a day, and that will happen in 8 to 10 years, San Gabriel Valley will become drought-proof. The goal is 100%, and there's no reason why all of that water that's going to the ocean can't be put back into the aquifers and clean the aquifers, recycle the water, and make us much less dependent on other people's water. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your thoughtful comments about that question. Here's the next, which is also for all of the candidates, and it sort of comes in two parts. There are two questions that are similar, so I'm going to combine them. So one question was, if the train line does not pass, how do you plan to bring new jobs here for the next generation? And the other question was, how do you support private business owners? You can speak to either or both of those questions if you like. One is about how to bring new jobs, and the other is about supporting private business owners. So we'll begin with Mayor Kendrick.
Well, as a longtime Laverne business owner and an employer, it's important to create jobs. Companies like Gilead coming to Laverne that will employ up to 1,000 people are important. Having the University of Laverne in our community employing many more than that and spending money in our town is good. Our San Paulo Business District, which is like 130 acres, employs thousands of people down there, and if you go down, you can't find a parking place on the street or in a parking lot. Those are all good things. So the Gold Line development, and the Gold Line is coming. The money has been passed. Measure M that we passed 2016 ensured that. So, and we were the first shovel-ready project. So we're going to have lots of jobs are going to come from the construction, and lots of jobs are going to come from the development that happens because of it. So we're going to have more people living in Laverne around the Gold Line station. We're going to have lots and lots of businesses that are going to employ people. So the more people we have employed in Laverne, the less you have to travel outside Laverne. And that would always be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hepburn, your comments on supporting businesses and new employment.
I've been a proponent ever since we've lived here to shop Laverne. I think that's the most important thing. That is your 100% support of our local businesses. Whatever you can do to support the businesses here, that's spend your money locally. That's the most important thing you can do. As Mayor Kendrick had stated, the Gold Line, it is coming, it will be here, and that is going to spur a tremendous amount of construction, jobs, housing, retail. It's absolutely a plus for us. Yes, it will bring some things that we need to have more police and fire, because it's going to bring some elements that aren't as great for us, but we'll address those. But the overall benefit to our community is going to be great. It's just another destination place for Laverne and our downtown corridor. But also, I'd like to see an oversight, body oversight for the anything new that's coming into our community, whether it be restaurant, whether it be retail. I think our residents and ourselves as council need to have a choice on now what's coming in, whether it be fast food or not fast food, whether it be niche clothiers, things like that that we would shop at to keep our residents in Laverne. We only have a limited space, but if we bring in the right mix for our community, there's almost no reason to leave this town. And that's the most important thing, keep your tax dollars here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson?
Yes, I agree. Stay local, no fast food. I think the kind of businesses that we attract are ones that people could get anywhere. And I think if we get ones that aren't around here necessarily, but they can be chains, but if they're 20 miles away, people would want to come here rather than go somewhere else, like, Rancho, somewhere, just anywhere further away because of our city and the way that it is and how nice it is here. I think we need to treat everyone equally, each of the private business owners. I think we need to not show favoritism to anybody. Excuse me. This is going to sound, of course he's going to say this, but I work in film. If you had film incentives here, I mean, good heavens. The amount of money people will spend just to film somewhere, just to shut down the street, and they got a crew, yeah, the crew might be 100 people, but if they shut down the street, then they are shopping locally, then they're buying their food here, then all of their money is staying here. And then we can write in deals saying, just like how Pasadena had with Parks and Recreation. Every time that they're showing the city hall, they're getting a bump of that money because, hey, we wrote this contract, we wrote this agreement. We right now have a jail with 4 cells that we're not using. And I think, man, all the times I've had to go to a jail scene and it's just on a terrible, terrible soundstage. And it looks awful. Do you know how much they would pay to just come here and film in our little town? I think you need to, we all need to just broaden our scope and just go, you know what, there's more business out there than just these little nice McDonald's and all that out here. We got a lot of money out there that people want to spend, and they can want to spend it here if we just let them know we're ready to have them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chang, jobs and business.
Well, as 20 years in the finance industry, that's what I do on a daily basis, which is working proactively with businesses and engage with them and see what they're looking for. A lot of times in the news, people say, California is no longer a business-friendly state. Businesses are moving out. Then we need to think why. Not just taxes, but why other resources can the government work with the businesses. And at the same time, that will help us to have a stable tax basis. So by bringing new businesses in a dedicated area, that will help Verne in create a job. Because without businesses, there's no job, right? So first we'll worry about taking care of the business, how we allocate them, and as mentioned, bring the businesses that Verne wants. Not just another chain that I can probably just drive next door a few minutes and get it. Yeah, if we can get something that we want and something that is not easily accessible, we not just Verne will shop here. We can track all the residents from all the cities, neighboring cities, right? A lot of people, while I was walking, people say, yeah, I don't go to Old Town Verne, I go to Claremont. Why? So we have to think about that, right? If we can bring businesses that can attract not just Verne, but also all the residents, that will help us with our tax basis, and then indirectly will help create more jobs for all our residents, or perfectly for our graduate from University of Verne, which is constantly creating skillful workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Well, I do agree that we do need more jobs, but we need higher paying jobs. $15 an hour at minimum wage when it finally hits is still not going to be enough. You have rentals right now that are at $1,600, and a person making $15 is barely going to be able to cut it, even if they're paying their housing, their bills to include electricity, and to a lot of other things. It's just not going to happen. We need to bring in jobs that are going to be paying some decent money so that people can afford to live here. You're talking about $500,000, $600,000 houses, and if you have to put $20,000 down, you know how much that's going to be. You don't see a lot of incoming younger families as much as we'd like to, simply because they can't afford to live here. They don't have the money and the jobs that should be around to give them that opportunity. We need to go ahead and try to work with some of these companies that could come in, and just like Zach said, the film industry is nice because they come in, they shoot, they leave, and they'll bring their money. In many cases, like in New Mexico where I was, they had film liaisons in pretty much every city. The film liaisons work with those companies that come in, that want to shoot, And they show them where they need to be, where they need to live, and where they can go ahead and spend their money when it comes to items that need to be purchased for the sets. Netflix recently bought Albuquerque Studios, which was a major boon for that city. We need to look at every aspect as possible. And when we talk to companies that are coming in, there was one company that I was speaking to that actually went to San Dimas, and one of their workers looked at Laverne, and I was trying to figure out why they didn't want to come in to our tech area. And it was a little more of an association, but they did look. And I think we need to go ahead and advertise stronger about our areas that we have for industry to be able to bring them in.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Ms. Lau.
Thank you. I think one of the big things that we need to look at is how are we marketing ourselves to the outside business community? What are we letting them know is beneficial about building a business here versus building a business somewhere else? What are they going to get out of it? Because as much as we want places that we want to shop at or that we want to spend money at, we need to, it's a reciprocal relationship. They want to know that they're going to be profitable and that it's going to be a place that they're going to be able to stay for a long time. So identifying those needs and being able to find those mutually beneficial partners is key. I think the other thing that we don't talk a lot about, or maybe only gets talked about in certain circles, is that we do have these really amazing relationships with organizations that exist, and we need to explain that and share that with folks. So I see the Chamber of Commerce is here obviously because they're helping to put this event on, but they've got amazing resources that are available for businesses that are starting in Laverne. We also have the Small Business Development Center right by the university that provides workshops on how to obtain a small business loan. If you're a new entrepreneur or business owner, what skill sets do you need to be able to make sure that your business is successful? Because you may have a great idea for a business, but not know all the mechanics of what you need to do to be successful, whether it's from the legal side of things, from the HR side of things, financing, whatever that might be. And so really letting folks know that if you come here, we want you to stay. We want you to be successful. And here are the resources that we can provide to you to help make you successful. Because I think we can all agree that we don't want to be a revolving door for multiple businesses, right? We don't want to see one come in and then go out, come in and go out. That's not beneficial to them or for us. So how can we communicate that better to other businesses and entrepreneurs so that they say, hey, I really do want to start my business in Laverne and stay there. And so again, it's that collaborative spirit and cooperation that we need to share and really be proud of.
Thank you, Mr. Emory.
Thank you. The goal line is coming. I would encourage everybody here, if they want to see a great model of how a small city can survive at a goal line station, I would get on the goal line train here at Azusa Pacific and get off at South Pasadena's station. You can see the Constitution Garden. You can see the Meridian Ironworks, which is now a museum. And you can see countless numbers of small family-run businesses that are thriving just because of that station. And if you're into Halloween, you can see the original Halloween house that the first movie was ever filmed at. Business. I made my living for 35 years as a commission salesman with Ingram Paper Company. I love business. Capitalism put food on my table, fed my kids, paid the rent, all of that. So small businesses are great. They're the lifeblood of a small city. We talked a lot about restaurants. South Pasadena wrote an ordinance forbidding any more drive-thrus. We felt that that was a major contributor to pollution. Everybody parking, waiting to get a taco or a hamburger, is spewing tons and tons of pollutants into the air. And we thought that was a good idea to do away with them. So we encourage people to get out, park your car, walk into a restaurant, say hi, have your meal, and go about your business. Small business is great. Get on the goal line and run and see how another city made a great effort out of the goal line station. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
I think everybody on the city council, their first and foremost job is really to be a voice of the residents and really sell our city. we need to be out there and looking for these businesses and really promoting Laverne. And I feel that building relationships, facilitating collaboration, and working hard with a strong work ethic, my 3 core beliefs, is really what would help out in bringing businesses in. We need to enhance our partnerships. Like Ms. Lau was talking about, the University of Laverne and their small business group, and making sure our Chamber of Commerce, our Old Town District, and our Foothill Corridor is really enhanced and looked at. We have great wine walk, beer walks going on our Shop Laverne. We need to really promote what Laverne is, and not only for our residents, but for the cities around us too, so that they can come in. If Measure LV passes, we want other people coming in here to give us their tax dollars as well, and bring those back to Laverne. So the City Council really needs to be the salesmanship of Laverne, and making sure we're promoting Laverne and promoting the great things we do here every single day.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be having a Metro Gold Line event maybe the second week of March. So I think everybody really needs to take a look at that and go see what they're going to bring into the city with regards to the transportation, the corridor. So to include that is, I think, we need to be strategic about the businesses that we offer to invite into the city, because many times, a few years ago, we had within walking distance 3 haircutters down in Old Town Verne, and it's like, I know that there's a lot of things that are available for everybody, but we need to be really figure out what exactly who we're going to bring in so they can offer the city. And when it comes to businesses and developing businesses, I think we need to work with those new businesses to ensure that they at least employ a percentage of Lavernians, because I'm getting tired of driving I drive to Ontario every day. I'm sure, some people, they can have long days. They leave in the morning, they come back at night, and then that's it. But we need to work with new businesses to ensure that they employ citizens within our community. We want to make sure that people jump off of the gold line when it's completed, because, like Wally said, it's a opportunity for us to showcase our city and stuff like that. I know I've gone on the gold line all the way to Pasadena and downtown, and so that's what we really need to do is support our private businesses, have them at least employ a percentage of our citizens within the community, and also encourage them to use the existing infrastructure businesses like construction and printing and stuff, so those businesses can take advantage of the new business development.
Thank you. And thank you all for your comments on that question. We will hear now concluding statements from each of the candidates in reverse order of the random draw. Each will have 3 minutes. We will begin with Mr. Esqueda.
All right, thank you again. My closing statement is, I'm going to use the same one that I ended up with at the City Council for. I moved here 20 years ago, and I live over here off of Hillcrest Drive, off Magnolia, and like I said then, it was great. The place was open, it was vacant, it was a grass field, it had the one oak tree, nothing was developed. Hawthorne still had homes there, and my daughters used to ride their tricycles around there. We used to fly kites, and then once again, like I said previously, is that they started developing it. I was a little nervous at first, but it turned out very great, beautiful people. I know people over there. My daughters sold Girl Scouts in there when they were younger. Some of the people that live over, even here in Hillcrest, are almost like grandparents to my daughters that have grown up in the city for the last 20 years. We still come over here to the gift shop to buy candies. We support the thrift shop and stuff like that. So I know that there's a lot of change that is going to be happening here in the city. But overall, we need to come together. There's too much discord and divisiveness within the city. So I guess I'm asking for your support for a communal path for development and to mend the fissures that have been developed over the city over the last, we'll say 18 months to 24 months. I know that we need to make sure we take incremental steps in developing our city to include businesses, like I mentioned, strategically selecting businesses that are going to support our growth. We need to make sure that we need to support our first responders, our employees of the city. So I think closing is that everybody here on the panel wants what's best for the city, to include Hillcrest, many of the other homes, and more importantly for everybody holistically within our community, because it's not just, I don't see Laverne as a city, I see it as, like everybody here, it is my home, it's my block, it's our streets, that we really need to really have a sense of oneness, so to speak, for the betterment of everybody. So everybody does, we still continue to move forward with that mentality of the small town mentality, Mayberry, but we still have to have the vision to ensure that we have an opportunity to invite businesses and other opportunities like the Gold Line and support those businesses for Verne. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Esqueda. Mr. Crosby.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Almost 2 hours. I really appreciate your being here for us. And I know we're all grateful to make sure that we're giving you who we are. 14 years ago, my wife and I made the best choice we've ever done in our lives. First, my best choice was marrying her, but her best choice wasn't that. It was convincing us to move here to Laverne. We wanted somewhere to raise our kids. We wanted somewhere to make sure that we knew each other and knew our neighbors. And I realized I live on a small cul-de-sac just south of the freeway on Friar Circle, 8 homes there. And we know each and everybody. We know the people that live there, one of the original new houses. We check on each other. If there's a fire truck come or a police car, we come out and we check on each other. If there's an unusual car in our neighborhood, we go out and see what's happening and make sure that everyone's okay. And I thought it was just my neighborhood that did that. But this is Laverne. Laverne does that everywhere. And I found that out by going on Santa Claus and the fire trucks at Christmas. And we went out there, and when that fire truck left, everybody came out, and all you saw when we were leaving after handing out the goodies to the people was that every single resident coming out, shaking hands, hugging their neighbors, and being together. That's what Laverne is. And we got to make sure that's what we maintain Laverne is, how we help out our neighbors. We work together. We're always trying to lend a helping hand. And I want to make sure that we don't go away from that, and that we are for each other and for our residents. Walking homes and walking the mobile home parks, people are really scared about their property out there. We need to make sure that we are maintaining the quality of life for all of our communities. North Laverne, East Laverne, all the mobile home parks, that we are making sure, and Hillcrest here too, making sure that we have the facilities and needs, our safety precautions with our fire and our local police, making sure that we maintain them for Laverne. We have our average age is 50 to 84. We have more medical calls than any other calls. We need to make sure that we're having a paramedic on those calls and maintain our Laverne fire to make sure it stays Laverne. My name's Rick Crosby. I have a lot of information in the back if you want to talk to me afterwards. I'm the first one on the ballot, and I believe I'm the best choice for Laverne. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Thank you. Mr. Emory.
Hello, everybody. What's for lunch? We've all been sharing our thoughts and what's on our mind. If you elect me, my first day on the job at City Hall is going to be to find the coffee pot. That's important. I will announce my hours that I plan on holding here in Laverne like I did in South Pasadena. We're all here because we want to be here. We're all here because we selected this as our home here in Laverne. With every fiber in my body, I will move to tear down the wall that exists between City Hall and the fire department. I think that the firefighter paramedics that put on their badge and their uniforms every single day to make our lives safe and put their lives on the line. I think now is the time for all of us to thank them for their service and tear down that wall and rebuild the confidence between all of us here, the elected public officials, and the firefighter paramedics. My information on the tax thing was stolen, thanks to one of the questions out there, so I won't regurgitate that. I am Wally Emory. I will bring 30 years of combined service to Laverne, and I have no outside interest. I have no real estate other than my home. I have no business endeavors here in Laverne that would prevent me or recuse me from voting on specific issues. And I'm anxious, I'm excited to take on the next 4 years as your council member if you vote for me. And I thank you again, all of you at home, behind the TV camera or whatever. You are all proof that citizens matter. If you look at the flow chart, it's the citizens, it's the city council, the attorney, and goes on and on and on. You are the city of Laverne. If you vote for me, the chair and the dais will not be Wally Emory's. I will merely be the occupant. The chair belongs to all of you people, and I will speak your words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emory. Ms. Lau.
So first of all, thank you again for taking the time to be out here and to be engaged in our city's civic endeavors into this election period. I know that you could be doing something else. You could be doing many things that maybe might be in a more enjoyable chair. So thank you for spending this morning with us. I really want to share with you again, I think everyone up here is passionate about the city and loves the city very much and wants to see the best happen for the city. I think for you to understand where I'm coming from, I mentioned earlier my parents and their role in shaping who I am and what I do in my life, and I think that's something that's been something at the forefront for me my entire growing up, is that you have to give back. If you are privileged enough to have things in your life, that you have had these blessings, that you need to give back and make sure that the community you live in continues to prosper and grow. And so again, I don't take that lightly, and I think while all of us have the passion up here, I think really you need to look at who has the qualifications and who do you want to best serve you in that role. And I think that for myself, again, with my background, I know how important it is to hear from all people, how important it is to hear from all perspectives, even if they differ from your own, especially if they differ from your own. I'm not here to say that everybody should think the same, because what a boring world this would be if we all thought the same way. But I think what would be exciting is that if we can bring back civil dialogue, if we can bring back real conversation, where we can disagree and still part as friends, and figure out how we're going to come up with solutions to the issues that face us today. So looking at my professional background as an attorney, as a risk manager, as a person who looks at things both analytically and critically, but with heart as well, I think you need that. Someone who's going to look at things from all angles, but also remember that there is a human component there, and that the decisions we make up here affect everybody in our community. And so how do we best make sure that our community is taken care of, and that we continue to be what I hope our city continues to be, a beacon for other folks, a beacon for other cities, to say, man, I wish I lived in Laverne. I wish my town was like Laverne. I wish I lived where people actually treated each other as friends. And I think that's something that we all need to remember and take to heart and really think about as we go into this election period. I am so gratified by the opportunity to even be sitting here today. My dad and mom are so proud, if you can imagine, which I think is great. But thank you for this opportunity, not only to be able to represent America in the best way possible, but to meet so many of you and to hopefully be able to walk next to you or see you out in the park and be able to say hello. Laverne is where friends live. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gill.
I can't believe in less than a week, the voting will be done, and this will all be a memory. We've had a very interesting season. We've had a lot of ups, we've had a lot of downs. And I'll be honest with you, I've learned so much over the past year and a half, filming the city council meetings, understanding what's going on. I know that, and I've asked and I've pleaded for change. And I think change will be coming. I think that the three people that are needed will be up there to make those changes, to be able to go into city council, to be going into city hall and saying, we need to look at what we have. We need to look at these books for our financials. We need to make sure that if this tax goes ahead, that it goes in the right direction and not going, and doesn't go to a place that we don't want to see. We need to be positive. We need to remove a lot of old ideas. We need to remove old groups, gangs, clubs that we've heard of. We need to go ahead and make new transitions. We need to make new roads that we can be positive, that are going to help the city and help all of us as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chang?
I'm not your typical immigrant here. As I mentioned earlier, I have grew up in South Central America and lived in East Coast and now West Coast and in Asia. So this has allowed me to interact and deal with different cultures and allow me to speak 5 different languages and be able to communicate to each of those cultures. And with that, make me believe that leadership with our government are not just words, but advocates to listen to all our citizens and residents and be able to communicate properly and not making decisions on a one-sided way. I have grew up in my adult career basically in businesses, building communities, creating jobs, and providing, most importantly, providing capital to our community, and then trickle down to business and creating jobs as well. So this for me is really a good experience journey, and my wife and my kids have been very supportive of what I have decided to do. Whatever the result comes, I think is experience to serve the community and the opportunity to get to know a lot of you through all this time and really listen. And this is what I've been doing for all my career, is to be able to listen and understand, not just me talking, but really understand what the resident or my employees or my vendors are looking for, so that we can compromise and work as united. And I'm looking forward that, if elected, I can continue to do that and provide my expertise to all the community and the city, so that we can be united and look forward and solve issues, not just arguing each other on what is the best, but come up with a solution and let's deal with the issues first, and then we can be friends again. So hopefully, if you haven't voted, please vote for me, Kenny Chang. Thank you.
Thank you. Now closing remarks from the mayoral candidates, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you. Sorry, I got knee problems, so I just kind of want to stand for a minute, if that's okay, guys. I know it's only 3 more minutes for me. Feels like an eternity. So, real quick, I just want to take a moment to recognize that today we're also celebrating, it's the 98th anniversary of the Supreme Court upholding the 19th Amendment in 1922. And I want to extend a thank you to all those who pursue justice and change and have realized the importance of civic duty. And I ran because I was unhappy with what I was seeing in our government. I did not feel that it was a government of us. I felt like it was a government of them. It was run by them. And I didn't want any more secrets. I didn't want any more hiding, really. I know in meeting with the police chief, it's something that gets brought up a bunch, is the crime stats. I know over the past 2 years, 2017 to 2019, our part 1 crime, that's robbery, that's rape, that's murder, that's all of those serious offenses, that's down 24%, unless he's giving me skewed figures. So I know we're living in a safer place. I know how we used to run things 30 years ago was a direct quote from John Blickenstaff, is he runs a calm and stable government. And I think we've really let that go. And I think what we've talked about today can help. What we've all been talking about throughout this campaign can really help us come back together and be a city. I don't know how we can preserve the identity of Verne if we're holding it so tightly, holding our past so tightly and not letting go of it, and using what we have as our community values as pageantry instead of actual guidelines that we used to do. And I think if we move back towards that, then we will get that small town feel again. We're not Mayberry, Mayberry's fake, but we could get close to that because we're the closest that it ever was. So I say, why not try? Why not look towards the future and not look at change as a bad thing and be afraid of it, but let's be brave, let's be strong, let's go into this for the future generations. Let's think about them first. Let's think about our future first when we're up here voting and doing whatever. Look, I'm a realist, I'm not gonna win, but that doesn't mean I'm going away. I'm gonna be here fighting. If you guys have answers on anything or questions on anything, and I know the answer, I'm glad to give it to you, but I'm not going anywhere. But thank you all for the opportunity for letting me share ideas and plans with you guys. It's been the joy of a life. It's been difficult, but it's been the joy of my life, so thank you.
Mr. Hepburn.
Once again, I want to thank Matthew, Tom, and staff, Hillcrest and Laverne residents for attending the forum. As I've knocked on hundreds of doors, I've been enriched and blessed by meeting so many new people of our beautiful town of Laverne. As a member of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, I'm able to take part and support the legislation to further protect and preserve our city's mobility, lifestyles, and living conditions. I take ideas and concerns of our residents to maintain your input and give a voice to what happens with the Gold Line, railroads, 5G, and other matters that affect our city and your residents. Moving forward, the things I will concentrate on as your mayor. I will work to ensure the fire and police stay local and fully funded and help to rebuild the relationships between the city and the fire department. Continue on improving the transparency of residents and employees. Support the no rezoning of Sierra Laverne golf property. This is about the future. The residents must decide which candidate they think will bring all the changes needed to even move forward. Let's rebuild and make new relationships and really reach our potential together. I have followed the Code of Fair Campaign Practice, which state the following. It is the ultimate intent of the legislature that every candidate for public office in this state who subscribes to the Code of Fair Campaign Practices will follow the basic principles of decency, honesty, and fair play, in order that, after vigorously contested but fairly conducted campaigns, the citizens of this state may exercise their constitutional right to vote, free from dishonest and unethical practices, which tend to prevent the full and free expression of the will of the voters. I and my campaign staff have followed these rules, but those behind Transparent Laverne have chosen not to, which is so unfortunate for our Laverne residents. If you choose me to be your mayor, I will work hard for all of the residents of Laverne. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kendrick, your closing remarks.
Many people have asked what my biggest and proudest accomplishment has been in my life, other than my family. And yes, I married up as well. Most honored accomplishment, I think, is my military service. 6 years in the United States Navy, 2 years training, 4 years submerged on a nuclear submarine. That led to my proud moment of being able to help dedicate the memorial at Veterans Hall. Things that we can look forward to in Laverne: new traffic signals are going to be going up to help traffic. New medians are going to be built to control traffic. Parks are going to be improved with shelters and barbecues and other things for the new lifestyle. First teen center ever in the city of Laverne is going to be built on the north end of Las Flores Park. New stage is going to be built at Monero Square in the old town of Verne. It's going to be used for the 2 car shows that exist, as well as the Christmas events and others as well. Underground of the Edison lines, White Avenue, going down on the east side, lots of Edison lines. Those are all going to be placed underground, removal of the poles, so it's going to have a lot cleaner and nicer look. And as we've talked today, the Gold Line is under construction, started this year. In 2022, we will start Laverne's Plaza, the construction that will be beside the station that we have. The bridge from the station area to Fairplex is in design at this time. A 200-room hotel will be built on the southwest corner of Arrow and Wheeler, which we have none today. Residential, commercial, including retail, office, and mixed use, will all be built as part of the Gold Line development. We highly value all of our employees and how important they are. They provide the highest quality of services to all of us who live here in this community. And they contribute to the continuing of our high quality of life in Laverne. They are our biggest asset. In a recent survey, 93.4% of the residents in Laverne rated their quality of life as either good or excellent. So how do we get to that 100%? I live my life by 2 mottos. The first, find a need and fill it. What have you looked at lately that if you look closer could find a solution and how to make our community better? Be part of the improvement, be engaged. It takes a village, and we are all in this together. Second thing, which is my most important one, is do something for someone else and don't get caught. Don't be afraid to help others, even if you don't get a pat on the back. If we all keep helping others, we help ourselves and we help our community. Laverne can only get better if we work together. Let's get to that 100% satisfaction rate and do it all together. My name is Don Kendrick, and I am your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, friends, I want to thank each of you for coming today and congratulate you for participating so respectfully in this demonstration of the democratic process. We should also be very proud of the caliber of candidates we have, each of whom are interested in doing their very best to make our community the best that it can be. So will you join me in thanking all of our candidates one more time for an excellent job. You are invited to speak to the candidates at their designated tables in the back of the room, and thank you, and may God go with you.
Thank you.